All right, in this video, I'm gonna demo how to make a thrown bowl using a mold on the wheel. I've already done the slab throwing on the mold here, and in this video, I'm specifically showing you how to throw a separate foot and attach it. So the bowl looks like this. I've already marked out the size of the foot that I'm gonna throw next. And I've got the second one sitting next to me and have measured using calipers how wide this foot is so they match. So I want to make sure before I take this off the mold that I measure with the calipers by pulling them apart and then twisting the little lock nut here so it stays, and then setting that aside. So I'm taking this mold off, grabbing a new vat with a little lump of clay that I've already wedged. And as with everything that we throw on the wheel, it needs to be wedged on the wheel as well. So I'm bringing it up into a tower shape and pushing it down at least 2 to 3 times. Just to make sure those particles are moving in a circle. And any air bubbles get pushed out. So when I'm ready to start throwing the foot shape, I want to start with a patty that's kind of the same width that I'm going for, so I'm not pulling it out too far. And you want to make sure that the walls of your patty are always kind of vertical. So I'm going to push, make my hole, and instead of allowing for a little bit of clay to stay at the base, I'm going to push my finger all the way to the floor of the bat. And then pull outwards. So when I'm pulling the clay towards my body to kind of make this donut shape wider, I'm really collaring it on this side with both fingers of my left hand and holding my right hand on top to make sure that it stays flat. And then those two hands are working simultaneously, pulling outwards towards my body. And this is a lot more clay than I will need for the shape of the foot that I have there, but that's all right. We can always take it off with our needle tool. It's really helpful to have your other bowl beside you so you're kind of throwing the same shape so the bowls match. And constantly be checking the width using your caliper. So that's about the right width. I don't want to pull out anymore, but I'm just kind of refining the shape. So what I've got here is a little too wide. So I'm just going to work to make this foot a little smaller to match my other one. Just working to make it a little thinner. I also want to take off all this clay on the interior with the potter's thumb tool. And take all that sludge off your deck. Because again, the cleaner we can keep the wheel head, especially when we go to take this off the wheel, less clay we're tracking around and your pot will come out cleaner. All right, so I'm just going to clean off my hands and check my other pot just to make sure that the shape that I've thrown here kind of matches the shape of the other foot. I can still adjust it a little bit once it gets on, once we put it on the pot. It's pretty close, still a little tall. I'm gonna take a little chunk off. Okay. So now I have like the general shape of the foot that I want. My deck's pretty clean, so now I'm just gonna harden it up with the heat gun a little bit, clean off my hands before I grab the heat gun so you don't get that heat gun super dirty. Keeping it on low so we don't shock the clay. Something like that. Okay, once it's in the earlier stages of leather hard, you can cut it off the wheel head or the bat. You can either use your needle tool to do this in the same way that you take clay off the top, or you can just cut it with your wire cutter. The wire cutter oftentimes will kind of mess up the perfect circle of the shape. So I usually tend to use the needle tool, but that's okay. We can always fix that when we put it back on to the pot. So we're going to now switch back and put the slab bowl that is still on the mold back onto the wheel. And you'll notice that we've already scored the top where it's supposed to go. And that's gonna help it adhere on a little better. So now I'm just gonna gently take my ringed foot, and place it on the already mapped out circle. Try to get it as perfect as I can. But the great thing is the clay's still really soft and I can still throw it, kind of adjust the circle shape. So when it's pretty close, I'm going to press down with my finger to make sure that that's a really good connection. The wheel should be going pretty slowly at this point. You never really need to be going fast in any of these processes. And I'm going to clean up the seam line on the inside and the outside. And you can throw it back to perfectly circular, or as close as you can get to that. And you do really want to compress to make sure that that foot's really on there and it's not going to go popping off in the kiln. This is a great technique if you want a kind of higher foot. I demoed a shorter foot, but that was just to match the other one that I did. But it's great to note too that at this stage the clay is still pretty malleable, so you could squeeze this and make it a little higher and thinner at this stage if you want. Or you can keep it the same width that you created when you were throwing it. So before you pop this off, the whole thing off the wheel head, it's always important to make sure that your foot is level. So you're gonna grab the bat you just took it off of, using the bottom clean side, place it on top, give it a little tap, tap, tap with your fist, pop it off, and it should be level. When it matches, if this is your goal, when it matches the other one, you can see it's pretty dang close here. It's ready to sit and harden on your shelf for overnight typically, and then come in and take it off the mold, maybe refine it a little bit if you need to tomorrow, and clean up that edge.